Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam Steele for Hot Pole Studios, and today, joining me on the channel is my very special guest, Mr. Chris Liepe. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. A little bit nervous because in this video I am about to embarrass myself publicly by pretty much yodeling on camera. Roll the intro. Really stiff, bad posture, bad for singers. The reason that Chris is on the channel today is Chris is an amazing rock singer, and I've seen some of his videos and they are very good indeed. And Chris is also a vocal coach, and hopefully Chris is going to be able to help me today because my voice has been suffering over the years a little bit. I'm getting a bit older. I'm not the same as I was, and anybody who's seen me sing on the channel has seen me doing the big power vocal operatic thing, which, you know, actually you can hear it there, the wee. Yeah, that happens more and more these days. So that's the kind of thing that I wanted to talk to you, Chris, about.
Yeah, so we recently got in contact through Warren Hewart from Produce Like a Pro, and it's really neat, actually. I wasn't really expecting this interview to go the way that it's going to go, where, you know, we're actually working through your voice, because that's what I love to do. I love to help people discover how their voice should feel first, and then work into ways that they want it to sound. And you see, most people get that completely backward. Most people, they're grinding in the studio, or they are rehearsing or gigging, and there's this pressure to sound a certain way, to keep up with the band, to record the perfect take. And so a lot of times, feel and approach takes a back seat, and we end up using our voices in ways that are not healthy to get on this fast track to making our voice sound a certain way. And in general, we completely miss the opportunity to discover what our voice is truly capable of. And so I'm working on a course with Warren that's available for a limited time, and it's called Empowering Your Voice and Vocal Recording. And in the context of the studio, I help you learn how to get the very best performances out of your voice, but not initially from a sound perspective. With another bundled course that I'm including, I help you break down your voice, learn how things are supposed to feel, and then we build from there, because the voice is always a moving target, right?
Right.
We need to learn in different stages of our life. You know, you said you were getting older and things aren't happening the way that you were hoping that they would. If you can learn to learn about your voice, you will always be able to embrace what it is and get great sounds out of your voice.
Right. This sounds exactly like what I've been looking for, because I know from the way that I've been thinking about things for a long time, I've definitely been approaching it from a sound perspective first. Just because the way that my kind of ear works generally, or at least has to up until this point, is that I've always tried to kind of emulate my heroes sound-wise.
Sure.
And you know, when you're young and full of energy, you can just kind of get away with it for a while. But I'm definitely finding that some of the higher stuff, or some of the more aggressive stuff, is not only not quite there anymore, but it can lead me to actually, you know, being in pain.
Yeah.
One time a few weeks ago, I tried to do I think it was a Chris Cornell vocal.
Okay.
And I was coughing so hard afterwards, I couldn't speak for 3 days.
Oh, yeah, that's no good.
No, that's really not good. So
I can help you with that for sure. So what happens? Describe what happens to your voice, and maybe make some noises when you start going up into those higher, more aggressive things. What's happening that you don't like?
Okay, so it's many things, and I keep picking things out. Because in my head, I kind of go for cleaner vocals or more aggressive vocals. And when I go for cleaner vocals, I do tend to have more power and go higher. But if I do a scale, there's like, you know, I know where my falsetto range is, or it should be, but it's changing. So if I go la da 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 da, so you hear up there, that's a very definite. That shouldn't be there, or at least it never used to be there.
Right. Well, and what I see you doing is reaching for.
Right.
I see you reaching and sort of resisting that transition into falsetto, right? La 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 la, and then that happens, right?
Right. Yes.
One of the first things that you can do, and anybody can do this, is learn to embrace the break. Don't worry about, oh, I'm going to crack, I'm going to break. That's not a sound I want. Because there's so much music. There's so much aggressive music in the break. Let me give you a couple examples, and you can put what I'm doing in your own voice, and we can kind of trade back and forth.
Sure.
And this doesn't sound pretty right away, but if we start understanding the in-betweens, we can rest in with the proper support. And
Right.
on my YouTube channel, I talk a lot about dialing in the proper support. We're not going to talk at length about that in this video, but if you want to do more of that, definitely check out my channel, and that'll help you build those foundations up a little bit.
Right.
But here's what we're going to start with. I want you to do something similar to what you just did, but rather than reaching, just let your voice naturally crack when it does. And don't worry about it cracking back and forth. Don't worry if it just goes 100% into falsetto or head voice.
Okay.
Just let it happen. So la 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 la. Go for it.
That was very clean.
Well, thank you.
La 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 la. Might need to go a little higher. It was just happening there. La 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 la.
Okay, so I did not hear a break there. I heard you blending it, which was good, and that's a good thing to be able to do. But we're going to be really counterintuitive here, and we are going to, rather than trying to mask our break, we are going to try to expose it. La 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 la. Like that's the kind of sound you want to get.
Okay. Right. La 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 la.
Yeah, you've got that clear like yodeling, right? Like Can you do that? Try that.
Yes. That's the
Right. So there's this very special thing that we can do when we bring those two worlds together. We go, head voice, chest voice, head voice, chest voice, chest voice, head voice, We start to hear them fuse, and we start to feel them fuse in our voice, right? And we're pushing low, really low. We're using poop muscles. We're not getting our neck involved. We're not getting our neck involved at all, really. We're focusing on pushing from as low as we possibly can. Like we're going to poop, and we're going to let our voice crack. Hey! Hey! And then we get this interesting in-between that happens when our head voice and our chest voice meet with the proper amount of push. It's not a ton of push, it's the proper amount. We can only do this when our voice, when our neck and our shoulders and everything are relaxed. And what this ends up doing as we develop it, let me play the progression for you. Hey! Hey! We get this really neat sounding, heavy, that's embracing the vocal break. And then we can take this a step further. I'm going to help you break this down here in a minute.
Okay.
We can take this a step further and add pitch to that. This is a little more complicated, but yeah! And then we get this kind of like Chris Cornell meets Sam Carter meets that aggressive. I mean, those are high mixed notes. They don't sound like this. They're chesty, they're aggressive, and I'm able to talk and I'm not choking.
That's very interesting that it's not kind of hurting at all, because I always get the impression that it kind of should. Not that I want it to, but
Sure.
Yeah. Well, let's work your voice out a little bit. First, we want to get you to crack really obviously. So you're going to be focusing on on all your energy going downward. Okay?
Okay.
Focus your energy going downward, and then whatever noises you make, accept them as opportunities to learn. That's really what we're going for here.
Okay.
So, go for it. Crack.
So,
There's some interesting things going on there already, but how did that feel? Let's start with that. Did it hurt?
no, it felt like a lot of pressure was building up. It felt like I was starting to go a little red, with kind of, I don't know if I'm pushing from the wrong place, maybe?
Well, if you feel, first of all, you didn't feel like you were going to choke.
no.
You didn't feel like there's this scratchy thing, like you could talk afterwards. So that's really good, right?
Good.
But I'd like to do it again, and rather than going for that in between so quickly, let yourself push and focus on bearing down, but don't let it fuse just yet. Don't let it fuse.
Okay.
Let's see how that feels. Because, again, this is a learning experience. This might go horribly wrong. So, push.
I don't think it will.
No, let's find out.
Yeah.
So,
So you've heard in the past that you want to maintain good singing posture and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you are actually adding tension all over your body as you try to maintain good posture, because you're trying to sing higher than you need to right now.
okay.
You don't forget about maintaining good posture. In fact, I want you to do the opposite of maintaining good posture. I want you to just kind of slouch and relax, like you've had, it's the end of the day and you're ready to just kind of, and start making those notes. Don't worry about going high.
Okay.
Worry about finding your break and being able to go between. Like, notice I'm not like, I'm not doing that. I'm just going, try it.
Right.
Yeah, you're very relaxed. You're very relaxed. This is very good. Right. Now, in that relaxed state, we're going to push a little harder from our support, those downward firing poop muscles. We're going to maintain complete relaxed state here. And right as we feel ourselves cracking, again, we're not going to try to go high. We're just, right as we feel ourselves cracking, we're going to give ourselves an extra bit of push. Not a ton, but a little extra push there. And it's going to do this. And we're going to allow ourselves to crack a little bit as we're dialing that in. But the important thing is we're going to feel those fuse. And as we feel those things fuse, we're going to discover a freedom. We're going to discover an area of our voice, this in between that we didn't know we had. Go for it.
Right. Let's see how this feels. That's weird.
It is.
That feels like my tongue's starting to.
You feel you're doing that a little bit. That's like a Cookie Monster thing. We actually don't want that. That's lower. That's a lower sensation, because you pointed at your lower throat. We actually want this sensation to feel like it's coming from higher, from above our voice box.
Okay.
And so if we don't try to insert the grit, we merely let our voice break, we're going to be able to get something that feels like it's higher. Not this. Not that, where we're imposing our lower tongue, which is how you described it. Instead, it's going to feel like it's, and really what it's going to happen sort of behind our soft palate, but much higher. That's the sensation it's gonna generate for you. Hey! Go for it. Yeah! Yes. Did you hear the difference between that sensation? And, well, there's two things. There's the feel and there's the sound. The sound, what I heard, is it was more brittle sounding and less like Kermit the Frog-ish, right?
Yes, definitely.
It was also far less. Once you in that small in between sense, there was far less pitch, right? In other words, it wasn't where you have that right? It was more this There's that higher sheen that's coming from higher in your throat.
Right.
How did that feel? Did it feel higher?
It definitely felt higher. Quite scratchy at the end. Maybe I pushed a little too hard just at the end there, but no, that was good. And it felt in this room, it felt a lot more out there when it really hit. It really came out like twice as loud, which was really interesting. Didn't expect that.
It's the very beginnings of you discovering how to use your vocal tract in a new way. And, you've heard the expressions, false chord scream, fry scream, those sorts of things. And you also heard the expression or the term mixed voice. We are sort of borrowing from what people have, from the value that people have assigned to these terms. And we're engaging different parts of our vocal tract, and we're actually giving our vocal cords a break. We're giving them a break because our vocal cords can now operate under the engagement that's going higher in our neck. So, yeah! Oh, yeah! And, some of those notes I'm hitting are good, and some of them I'm intentionally letting be goofy because I'm dialing in the feel.
Right.
And as we keep this going, as we continue to dial in this in between, we will get more and more control. And that's where guys like, whether they went about this way or not, guys like Cornell, even the real like heavy, Ollie Sykes with those great screams and even stuff like that, they have harnessed the power of their upper false chord area in their throat, and they've been able to put those things together, sing and scream in a way that is when they're doing it right. They don't always do it right, but when they are, can preserve your voice and help you discover all sorts of great new sounds at the same time. Well, you ready to try going there again, resting in that in between, and seeing if we can get even more sensations out of it?
Let's do it.
So, same things I talked about before. Downward focusing support. The sensation of the neck engagement should be high, and you should be relaxed. Up, from here up, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, I'm going to make a sound. You do the same. Okay, stop. Did that feel low or high?
The breaks felt kind of high.
Yes, good. Okay, but how did that distortion feel? Did that feel low or high?
High, I think.
Okay.
It's hard for me to describe, but I think high. It didn't feel. It came from up here somewhere.
Yeah, it didn't have that tongue engagement like you were talking about. That
no,
Cookie Monster
definitely
sort of thing.
Not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Try it one more time.
Okay.
That was an interesting note. You had the yeah. I heard the developments of something like that.
It's funny, as I was doing it, it brought to mind Kurt Cobain and the way he used to do a lot of that kind of stuff live.
Right. Yeah, and what you're doing, and maybe you can vouch for this and how things felt. It almost feels like you're adding the grit over the top of an existing note, as opposed to just going real hard on your vocal cords, right? You're not just pushing harder and harder and harder. It's like you're allowing this vocal break to create an overage, right? It's additive, almost like guitar distortion. You got a clean guitar, and then you're adding the saturation on the top.
Yeah, definitely feels like that. It didn't feel like I was trying to squeeze two sounds out of the same thing. It was definitely a kind of an all-in-one sensation. That's very cool.
Well, what other questions do you have? As you develop this and other things that you've been noticing about your voice, how can I help you further?
Well, here's something that we could talk about for hours, but let's try and keep it fairly short, is that I don't warm up nearly as much as I should, and it's partly because I've never really worked out a warm-up routine. Is there anything in particular that you would recommend for someone who, like me, is aiming to do rock stuff?
Well, let me talk about first the number one mistake I see people doing when they warm up. Most singers will start warming up with this idea that they need to work their range, they need to do some sort of exercise and be, accurate and, prepare their voice to do what it's going to do. And that's a good mindset or mantra to have, but the way we execute usually leads to more tension. Because, if we're doing, la 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 la. Wait, I cracked. Okay, let me do it again. Oh, my voice is not doing what it did yesterday, and now I'm a little bit discouraged. Okay, I got to, adjust my posture. I gotta do. Make sure I'm singing right and try it again. La 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 la. Now, what I'm doing a lot of things wrong. I'm building tension. I am working up to notes that I know are challenging. And I'm getting myself into a funk. I'm already discouraging myself because I'm impatient, right? So I'm going fast. So I got to hurry up and warm up so that I can do this other thing over here, right? When I warm up completely in the reverse. I start with my head voice and I work down to everything. My warm-ups typically looks more like this. I have no goal notes whatsoever. I'm not trying to hit a note. I'm not playing anything on the keyboard. I'm not playing anything on the guitar. Then it'll do something like this. Oh. Then I work more and more into different sensations, again with no note goals.
Right.
And it starts to get musical. It starts to get therapeutic almost, where I almost start, this sort of chant thing starts happening. But it all starts with the head voice and milking my sensations downward rather than reaching for things. Because I know in my head voice, regardless of the quality of the note, I can hit those notes high. And in combination with discovering other feels about your voice, like how to access our mixed voice, how to further develop that blend between the vocal break and our two resonances, how to, those sorts of things, we can add those things into our warm-up. But the main thing that we want to think about when it comes to warm-ups is we are not warming up the sound of our voice. We are rediscovering how our voice feels for that day and working with what we've been given. That's what we're doing. That is what a warm-up is. And if we come at it from head voice, coaxing our voice into existence, rather than boosting it or beating it into existence with expectations that we have, we're going to be way more set up to have success in the studio.
Fantastic. Makes a lot of sense. One warm-up that I was already aware of was very similar to that, but it was kind of starting quite low and just going lower and just opening the voice up. So that's something that I could do in a lot of venues because it's quite quiet, so you don't feel like you're not the guy in the dressing room going
Right.
It's funny, as soon as I'm on stage I'm not self-conscious at all, but in the dressing room or anything like that, I'm just a normal guy, and I'm just like, I don't want people staring at me. So that's definitely something I'll be keeping in mind. Is there anything else you can think of that, like I say, isn't particularly loud? Any like silent warm-ups, anything like that you're aware of? Or is that not a thing?
It is. One of the best things to do is start engaging different parts of, I call them points of resistance. And this is something that you can do. It's virtually silent. So if I just close off my air, hold my breath, and then I push with my support, I'm holding back air partially with my vocal cords, but partially with the area above my vocal cords, the same exact area we engaged when we did our vocal break. And so if I hold back my air, and then I let air through, but don't have a pitch, like this. I'm engaging my support, but I'm not engaging my primary vocal cords there. The point of resistance is above.
Right.
And if you see on an endoscopy, like a vocal scope, you can see that this part of the upper part of your neck kind of going, and it's the thing that is helping you hold back air. This is the beginnings of that sort of James Hetfield sort of sound. If you develop this further, like this. That is not, I'm not getting that with my primary vocal cords, and I can add primary vocal cords into that. Give me fuel, give me fire, right? This is 2 points of engagement. This is really high from holding back air. And then it is gradually bringing in our primary vocal cords. And this is the beginnings of discovering what it means to use vocal compression, where we're using, again, other areas of our throat to hold back air so that we can get a quieter, more aggressive sound. Aggressive sounds don't have to be loud. And this little warm-up is a great way to get that feel. I use that before I start a lot, where I'll hold back the air and then let this louder sort of stage whisper happen, as opposed to, it's not a whisper like this. Hey, listen to me, right? Where you're letting a lot of air pass. It's held back. And I did a video on my channel on Marilyn Manson, who does this very, very well. Hey, yeah, okay. Where you're holding back air and whispering at the same time, learning the balance of that sensation. And then as you can do that comfortably, adding in pitch behind it. And that's where you get, particularly in your lower range, a healthy grit. Because again, you've separated the two. And you can connect that with what we were doing higher. Really interesting way of connecting all those things. But it starts with those little tiny warm-ups.
Yeah, fascinating. So yeah, I think I'll be doing more of that and walking around the house sounding like Hetfield. Yeah, absolutely. I'll be putting on some classic records this week, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's probably a good point for us to say thank you, Chris, and sign off for the evening, because otherwise we'll keep you all day. And I know you're a very busy man with lots of clients, things to do, people to see.
Sure.
So yes, I will be in contact again, because I want to definitely chase this up and develop this more. But in the meantime, If you're interested in doing the same with Chris, get in contact with Chris. He's got the course through Pro Mix Academy, and there's all sorts of wonderful stuff on his channel to check out as well.
Thanks, man, for having me on the channel. It was really fun to hear you make some noises and try some new things. I look forward to doing more with you in the future.
Looking forward to it. Chris, thank you very much. And everybody, thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. See you later.
Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Pole Studios. See you there.